This conference will now be recorded.
So can everyone see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay. So I just give a quick update. So from last meeting to this meeting, so we have OpenRMC design specification. We contribute to the IC meeting and we do the presentation and we got IC approval last Friday. So this is a major update from last meeting. So for the coming tech week, so regarding OpenRMC topic, so we have a presentation. We just received the slide deck from Sujoy, but he didn't join today, seems like. Okay, so we probably go to, oh, I missed one topic here. So John, so we probably just skip to the next one first, see whether Sojourn gonna join later, so he can provide a high level presentation on the Tech Week slide deck. So you want, can we talk about the security part first?
Yeah, we can. So my first question is, did you send the agenda out for this meeting?
Oh, I just put online meeting.
You
Online.
didn't, no, you can't do that. People use that email as a reminder to attend,
Okay.
and you'll never get participation in this work group if you expect people to, of their own initiative, go onto the website or onto the wiki to look at the agenda.
Okay.
And that happened last time, it'll happen this time. So the first topic is security. So as you brought up, when the OpenRMC design specification was going out, that design specification actually had no chapter on security on top of the redfish interface. And I didn't know if we wanted to have that discussion in this meeting to roll a rev of that design spec talking about what security requirements were necessary for OpenRMC.
Yeah, so I probably can share a little bit in my mind. So hold on. So I brought this up. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Yeah. So I think this is just a preliminary discussion. So regarding the OpenRMC security, I'm really not focused on exactly security implementation here. So I want to ask from OpenRMC perspective, typically from northbound and southbound, probably we somehow, but this is open to discussion. So somehow can we put some level of the security profile first from the northbound and southbound perspective. So regarding the security, so probably from RMC perspective, so we from the northbound, so because we collect all the information from southbound as well. So I think, but it really depends on their target system. So, but from the RMC perspective, so do you think it's worthy to collect all the security protocol and also some enablement of the security firmware update about the underlying system, such as like a security boot, or also people might be interested on the chipset and the underlying system. So they might have the BMC, typical like an ASP chip. So they might say, so I'm interested in the 2600 or something because there's a security improvement. Also, they want to know underlying detailed implementation, whether they can support some access authority control or password key management, or is there any authentication? So the underlying system already support. So I know, so for if different target systems, they might have individual different implementation. So this is from northbound. So the sauce one might go even deeper and wider, so might cover even wider area. So it really depends on the target system. So for server might slightly different from the storage, so might different from even so if we treat as a power distribution unit also as a sauce one target. So I believe the security level and also the implementation is different. So I just brought this up to see whether we have some inputs here. This is just brainstorming. So we already have the 1.0 spec. So as far as the concern on security, keep browsing. So I want to collect inputs or feedback or any comments. So I saw Jeff is also online. So the Redfish, I believe there's a security session. I believe it's on the March release on the Redfish. So they might have some security service or something, so we can leverage. So yeah, so this is just a very initial preliminary discussion. So John, do you have any inputs here from your visioning?
Yeah, so when we started all this, right, we positioned OCP versus what the DMTF did. And so the DMTF describes and provides Redfish with all the descriptions as broad as it can, and leaves it up to organizations like OCP to actually make prescriptive requirements as to which ones of this myriad of security specific implementation needs to have. So Jeff can come in and tell you how, this is all the stuff we have. Here's the stuff you can choose from, right? But it's up to OCP to make that choice of what that
Yeah.
should be done. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that when we started OpenRMC, we said we would specify the northbound interface, right? So we've done that, but we haven't made, there are no requirements in the profile to have any security resources or properties, right? We should probably fix that, right? If we believe that in order to come through OpenRMC, there are specific security things that you want done. Okay. The second is the southbound interface. We were not going to specify it, right? We were going to specify the southbound interface requirements so that those southbound interfaces can be done in either Redfish or IPMI or whatever protocol you wish to have on the southbound. And so we were just going to layer requirements down as to what that functionality should be for manageability. And with this is what the security requirements would need to be for the southbound interface. And so we could stand back and say we have no security requirements at all, right? Go look someplace else for your security requirements, or we can attempt to embed some level of security in both northbound interface and the southbound requirements. So in looking at both your northbound and southbound, so okay, great. So what do you want to do, right? How much of it do we want to go put into the northbound interface specification, and how much of it do you want in the southbound?
Yeah, I think on this one is like not forcing the southbound target device to you sure you need to have this. I don't think it's a way to go, but somehow so this provides some list of things. So we might try to from a rack scale rack management perspective to understand. So if this is the area we really want to collect the information from. So that's my thinking. So
I mean, we could specify shoulds as opposed to shall, so it's softer than a hard requirement. But someone could very easily pick up the open RMC spec and says, "Oh, this has no security in it. I can't use this." Right? Go add some security on top of the OpenRMC, right? As to what I need to do in order to implement this. So let's take a step back then. If you wish to talk about it, if you're willing to talk about it. So INSPA is about to publish a bundled contribution, right? Does that have security semantics? And you may not know, but that may be a starting set, right? Or that could be one of many additions you can make to the northbound interface to add security. Or we could specify something as generic and reiterate what the Refit specification says, which is basically thou shalt have security. Will be vague as to what it needs to be, but it shall have security. And the question is, how do I test conformance to that statement?
okay.
The thing is that if we're happy with the way it is and we think it will be successful the way it is, then we can leave it alone. But if we get feedback back that we need some security semantics around this interface, then we should start thinking about it.
So my concern is, should we really consider about add, or just right now just leave it? So it's not urgent, or so we will see the community feedback in future and then start to think about.
Oh, that's a perfectly good position to take, is that we have what we have, it's been improved. If we allow people to go their various ways as far as security is concerned, and if there's an issue, then we'll go address it at that point. So that's why a larger attendance would be good, because you get more varied opinions, right? So,
yeah, okay.
All right.
All right, so you want to talk about the RMC usage guide, and also we can talk about the source one.
Yeah. So first, in the minutes, you might want to note our position of this project is to not address security until an issue is raised.
So do you want to share some?
Yeah. I was going to do that as while you did your minute update.
Okay.
Okay, so I sent these two documents out on the reflector prior to this meeting.
Yeah. Do you want me present to
No.
You can present. Yeah.
I'll go ahead and present. I just want to make sure I get the right one. All right. So if you look at the document that we sent out, it talked about a bunch of tasks, or capabilities or features, whatever you call them, and how they would be, what the requirements would be for a redfish interface. And then that gets rolled in. Those were fragments of the profile. We roll that into a profile, and now we have a profile which reflects the design requirements. So I took a look at this and I said, well, that's nice. So at this point, do we need something in addition for those who don't know how to read a profile? And I'm now looking at the spec saying, okay, I've got a system, what does it do? So what I've done is I've taken the same table that we had before. So this table comes directly from the design specification. And then I've selected exactly what that, showed examples of exactly what the usage should be, okay? So for getting information on the rack manager, you can now go directly to these sections. And this is so someone who's not up to understanding what profiles are can go ahead and start implementation if he just does it from an implementation standpoint. Okay. Oh, so 1.2 isn't up there, so I need to update that table. So basically, this says that okay, for above there's this obtain inventory information for the rack manager, and this has just two sectors. It has the command you issue, and this is based on exactly what we've named it within the profile, which is rack manager, and then what we should expect from the output. And in this particular case, the detail we had was, I believe up there was, it actually listed, yeah. In the description, we actually, it listed exactly what constituted through information. So this is what constitutes through information, which is manufacturer, model, SKU, serial number, part number, asset. And that's as specified by the profile, is that profile specifies this is exactly what you should get back. Okay, and then for each node in the rack, which is the second part of that same capability, is you do a get redfish v1 chassis 1 ID. ID represents some instance, and you get back basically the same information, but for that particular chassis or node. Okay, and I can go through the rest of this. It's just basically shows someone who doesn't want to understand redfish at all, doesn't want to understand profiles or CSDL, right? Just wants to start writing code. That this is generally what he would look at. It'd be a far more approachable document than the design specification. And so this allows us to make sure that when we have when we actually have a use case and management capabilities, that we can actually map it to some action that we can perform on a redfish implementation to get the data that we expect. Because one thing you discover is that this through information, it's unclear exactly what that was. And so we all make guesses, but this makes it more explicit exactly what that information is that we had in the profile and what we expect to get. So I have two questions. I guess one question is this useful? And two, should we, if it is, we should go ahead and post it on the wiki site.
Yeah, so we can definitely put on the wiki site. So my question here is, so are we gonna contribute as a white paper? as well?
Well, the question is, yeah. So we can contribute this as a white paper. Both of these documents I talk about can be contributed as purely as a white paper. And I'm not quite sure what the value of it as a contribution is versus just having, hey, post it on the wiki, and people who want to know about it can go modify it, and we don't need IC approval for any of this stuff, because our charter is to submit design specs, not necessarily all this other information that makes it more useful.
Yeah, I think we can put on the wiki first. So when people look at the design spec, we can refer to the wiki, so you can have the user's guide here. So guide someone might interested but don't have the background. So maybe a quick.
Right. So like one of the things that you discover here is this is how vague we got at the very end. So we have this firmware update where I think we have the update service required on the in the profile, and we update firmware. But now as we evolve firmware update, we have both a push mechanism and a pull mechanism for firmware update, and whether we should allow both in our profiles or whether we only allow one. And I haven't looked at profiles since I wrote it, so I don't know exactly how we context this. But so at the bottom, which is 410, yeah. So I talk about both about the this. So this is how to get the firmware revision. Oh, and how firmware update is done is that you submit a task, right? But that task can be either a post to simple update, which makes it a pull method, which means that firmware image resides somewhere on the network, and you're asking the Redfish service to pull it, or the rack manager to pull it. Or it's a push mechanism in which you include the firmware image as part of the post in a multi-part, right? It's the second part of this thing. And so in your request, you've given the rack manager everything it needs in order to update its firmware. And so those are some open questions that we had in the firmware design, in the OpenRMC interface design that we have to go back and start closing up. Okay. So decision is to go ahead and just post this on the wiki. Huh?
Yeah.
All right.
So can you send to Michael as well? I can forward. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I sent it out. Yeah, we'll have to talk. Do you want to post it right on your Google Drive, or should I post it on my Google Drive and just send you a link? But we can talk about that
You
later.
can send me a link. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Okay. So then we move to next agenda item, the source-spine interface.
Yeah. So did the same thing. So as I mentioned earlier, we define a northbound interface, and it can be implemented southbound in various interfaces, Redfish being only one of them. And I believe in the early discussion, we said, well, we'll go focus on fleshing out what Redfish looks like as a southbound interface. And hopefully that would influence the either baseline or the server project in making sure that their requirements, and their profiles line up to our southbound requirements, so that OCP servers could be plugged in underneath OpenRMC. You remember that discussion?
Yeah.
All right.
So I review the document. I just provide my feedback. So maybe just we open to discussion. So I saw pretty much this is aligned to the northbound. So basically you divide to the really information we collect from southbound. Also some NA is actually the RMC is doing that portion. So so because since it's a southbound interface, so do we need to think about, so if we add in a scope session talking about, because this is just really just from user cases typically using Redfish, but the southbound we are not just restricted to the Redfish, right? Also the target. So right now, I believe initially we target to server and nodes. So are we just gonna restrict to only this two type of node, or also we didn't specify it's a single node or it's a multi-node, like might have the two level of the management chip. So on the individual nodes, they might have individual BMCs, and on top of that, they might have a chassis manager. So when we do the southbound, now we're gonna penetrate through the CMC to the deep level of BMC, or just stop as the chassis manager will be good. So chassis manager gonna hold to collect all the underlying information. Also, are we gonna think about, so if we're gonna have other type of nodes, so maybe have some acceleration box or PowerShell, or even some cooling controller box or something. Yeah. So I didn't. So I think so. It might be worse to add another system overview to address this. How do you think, John? But this is just really high level about the use cases and from Redfish perspective. Yeah.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Because I mean, part of this exercise for me was to figure out all the questions we haven't answered. And those are the ones you've laid out. Because all I'm looking at is, let's say it isn't a server, right? Because it could have been server storage or networking for iCare. And all we specified was, let's assume we get a northbound interface request, and we want to propagate it down to the southbound. Right? If that southbound was a Redfish implementation, what requirement will we have upon it? And so, all this lays out is a southbound requirement. Whether it's a server or not is I don't make a guess at. So this could roll into the baseline, in which case all the platforms get it. Right? Or each individual platform can decide how much of it they want, whether they want to support this or not. Right? So that's your first requirement question about servers, right? Whether this is only for servers. And the answer is no. When we had our original discussion, we were talking about OpenRMC only managing servers, right? And that was the main discussion. So if we want to now expand that out to managing other platforms, right, like storage and networking, then we can go have that discussion. But most of this stuff was chassis level stuff, right? So independent of whether the chassis was hosting compute, storage, or network. Okay. So the second question about hierarchy is a question that arises out of here when you do So I expected I was talking to individual BMCs and not a quote chassis manager.
Okay.
So if we want to entertain talking to the chassis manager, then we need to understand what this document would look like if it happened to be a chassis manager in the way.
Okay. So yeah.
But this is the only way we can get our requirements down to a point where we can actually take it and compare it to the baseline profile, or compare it to the server profile, and say you are uh, you meet all these requirements, or there's a gap in which we need to fill.
Okay.
Because if we don't do this, then we won't have people who can plug into an OpenRMC interoperable with any type of interoperability. Because one company will make a specific decision about what its southbound interface looks like, and someone else will make another decision about what their southbound interface looks like. And the northbound OpenRMC may be all the same because we now have a profile for it, but southbound, it can be anything. And the nodes underneath the southbound interface are not interoperable because you can't move one to the other.
Okay. So for this southbound, so I saw you already put 1.0. So are we gonna put it onto the wiki for review again?
Yeah,
Track some
I thought it was
information.
actually 0.1, but
Yeah. So I will provide some markup on this draft, and I will send back and to see whether we can receive other comments or inputs from the rest of the community. Yeah. So.
mhm.
So you will provide the link as well, right? So I
Yeah, I just didn't have
yeah.
time before this meeting.
Okay.
Okay, in that case, I'm done.
Yeah. So is there any comments from Jeff, Nancy regarding the southbound?
I'm just a fly on the wall. I don't have any opinions right now.
Okay. All right. So I will put the action item. So John to provide the link, and we will put on the wiki and for public to review.
Could you send an email once it's posted to the wiki so that I know to go look at it?
Okay.
Thanks, appreciate it.
Yeah, we'll do. So I have pinned to Sujoy, so probably he's not gonna try today. He didn't reply. So John, you will hold another review session, right, regarding on the submit to the tech week?
Yeah, Hammer will.
Hamilton, okay.
Yeah, Hammer will send out. I think we have several presentations for Tech Week, so we have to review them all.
Okay. All right, so I don't have other stuff in my agenda. So any topic question, John, you have, Jeff?
My question was regarding the INSPO submittal. So is that still on track at all?
Yeah, so we have the design file as well. So do we need a setup to contribute it to another IC meeting agenda?
Oh yeah, yes. This is a design contribution.
Yeah.
This is
Okay.
not this is not a specification at all. This is a design specification that adheres to a specification.
Mhm. Okay. So for that contribution, we need to have both hardware and software put together, right? To
Correct.
handle solution.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So we have the legal agreement already signed. So just need to prepare the bundle and the presentation slide deck.
Right. And if you work with Michael Shell,
Yeah.
he'll make sure you go through the process.
Okay. So let me ask a side question. So Michael, so do we have a slot for November meeting, or maybe so we probably need to push to December, right? If we don't have a slot.
Hi, Han. Yeah, so the November meeting is actually completely full, and we have a couple in the waiting list already. But I can put it as a placeholder for the December meeting if you'd like.
Okay. So we have no choice. So yeah, so let's put on the December meeting agenda. So I will combine all the software and hardware design bundle together and then come up with a slide deck. Yeah. So Michael, you're gonna once you finish, you're gonna send me a confirmation, right? Hello?
Hey, Han. Yes, sorry, I was on mute. Yep, I'll do that.
Okay, thank you. All right, that's it. So I will prepare for that. So I think that's end of this agenda. So if no more topics, so we're gonna close this call.
Okay. Thanks, Han.
All right, thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.